What's up, everybody? My name is Dell. Welcome to another episode of Movie Swap. And tonight we have a special guest for me because this gentleman is probably most responsible for me actually being here right this moment. He was one of the first people, one of the first YouTubers that I grew a connection with. And then, of course, he brought up the movie battles. He created those and really pulled me into the community and welcomed me into the community, and that led me to creating my own channel. And I'm talking about none other than the one and only 4K DRay.
Yo, what is going on?
What's up, my man?
Nothing much, man. Thanks for having me up here.
Absolutely.
Leave.
I know that you've had a busy few months because you kind of been in and out of the YouTube thing, and I know you got some things going on. But I have to ask the question, because if I don't ask the question, everybody in the chat is going to bombard you with this question: are the battles coming back?
I do want the battles back. However, you guys know I like bringing people to the community, new faces, people from off the chat, or people who just happen to come across the battles, love it, and be like, you know what, I like to show off my collection, have a little bit of fun on a Thursday night. So I do want to bring the battles back. I have created a TikTok. I think I created that probably about 2 months ago as an effort to find new people. That's the only reason I did that. I didn't want to go to TikTok, but I was like, you know what, I got to do what I got to do to find new people. So I've been trying to, show little clips, put my videos over there on TikTok to try to bring in some fresh new faces to it. I've had a couple of people, check it out, say they liked it, but nobody yet. A lot of people are really camera shy and things like that. So that's a different, bringing somebody to a live stream is a lot different than making it like a 20-second video. So I really want to bring them back, but you guys know I like having new people showing off. I like being entertained. And people showing stuff that I hadn't seen. I go crazy when I see new stuff, and I'm like, oh, I didn't even know that was out there. So, the battles, they will come back. I just, I want y'all to see some different people.
Yeah, no problem with that. No problem with that. So TikTok, you got any dance moves out there?
Nah, I can't do all that. That is too old for that. You'd have called me back in the early 2000s.
Hey, you and me both. It's two steps all day long. That's all it is. All right, so you and I are not really that far from each other.
Not at all.
But we keep missing each other, different various, events. We keep missing each other. So one of these days we're going to get it together. But one of the things I found out through our attempts to get together is that you're a car guy.
Yes.
So just if you could speak on just a little bit of what the event that you go to often that I'm talking about, because there's a few other car people around.
So every first of the month, in the Raleigh area, Raleigh, Durham, Mooresville, whatever you want to call it, it's all like centered right there together. Every first of the month, they got Cars and Coffee Mooresville. They do it themed every month. So coming up, I believe it's May 6th is the first Saturday. It's Lamborghini Day. They just had McLaren Day. So I am there bright and early. Typically every month. There might be a month that I miss out on, depending on weather, or if it's too cold, I ain't going. I don't like the cold. But yeah, I try to be there, enjoy it, walking around, having a good time all by myself. So I just always, I like the cars, but the thing is, I'm not into actually like tuning up my own car. I can't take driving around with that noise, but I like being out and hearing it, hearing the turbos revving, the exhaust. Like, I like hearing it, but I just don't want that to be part of my everyday. But I've liked cars since, little kid, die-cast cars, pushing them across the floor and the carpet. Started going to car shows in like middle school. Me and my friends, we used to love the low riders, seeing the hydraulics. So it just stuck with me ever since then, cars and bikes.
Yeah. I mean, you speak about that noise, man. If I go to a show or something like that, yeah, that's cool. But if I'm sitting at the light and I hear that noise crank up from somebody else's car and it sounds like they're going 3,000 miles an hour and they barely moving, I get so annoyed.
Yeah. But it's a good time, man. I mean, if you want to come out Saturday, I plan on being there. So
the problem is Saturdays are just crazy for me from sun up till sundown. I don't really get much of a Saturday. I got are done on Saturdays, and I'm playing taxi cab too, so I'm doing a lot on Saturdays.
Yeah, it's pretty much like one of my only times I get to get out and just kind of relax on my own. So that's another reason I like doing it. And it's super early, so I still got the rest of the day.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. I'm gonna make it one of these days. I just don't know which one, and who's gonna be mad at me when I go. So from the house. So, somebody's gonna be mad. So all right, so I'm gonna get into the chat. We got about 16. Well, no, it just jumped up to 19 people here. I
Oh,
appreciate
nice.
each and every one of y'all that have come to hang out with us at least for a little bit tonight. I know there's some other streams where you can be watching or you can be watching a movie or doing anything. So I'm glad that y'all are here. And my man here, we spoke a little bit backstage, and I know that what's in the air in the community. So I've been, obviously I watch his videos, and then I saw a lot of crazy comments going back and forth between not even him, but other people just kind of going at it with one another over what was in the video. And I just wanted to put it out there that this is tonight. We're not here to talk about that. We're here to really talk about these two movies that we've selected. So if anybody in the chat, if you're going down that route, I'm not going to address it. We're going to go past that. But I think we're all adults here. We're mature. And we know what Movie Swap is by now because this is episode number 12. So I think we should be pretty good on that. But let's go ahead and see who's out there. And first one in the door tonight was Huck from Huck's Pop Culture Cafe. He says, "What's up, legends? What's going on, Huck?" And Tony from Basement Blues, speaking of legends, he says, "Hey." And what's Johnny watching is here. Johnny is a new word to me as far as people been hanging around, and he's been showing up a lot lately. So I really appreciate Johnny. And he says hello to all, and he says hello to me personally, and hello to Tony. And of course, he says hey to Mr. Huck, and of course to you. He says hey there, 4K.
Yo.
Dilated Entertainment is here. What's up? He says,
Hey.
he's got a lot going on right there. Jerry is here. Says, what's up? And that was just you letting everybody know about being early birds, how you love it. What's up, fellow collectors? Jerry responding. It got a lot of everybody going back and forth, and that's one thing I do like about the community. When people show up for the chats, they interact with one another.
Yes.
And I really appreciate Bob is here. Bob's got a big stream going on in about an hour, so a little less than an hour now. So he's got a stream going on. So if any of you are going with Bob when he has to go, that is perfectly fine. But go ahead and hit the like button on the way out for me. And of course, check out DRay. And if you're not sub to him, sub to each other, like I always say. And if you feel so inclined, sub to me too. And he says, I hope everyone is having a great night and enjoys the stream. Thank you very much, Bob.
Same.
All right. Tony can't wait to see what we both watched. Tony was one of my earlier guests on here, and we had a really good time when he was up here. And of course, that was me. Let me skip over myself. I don't need to talk about me. All right, there we go. Computer acting up on me over here. All right, so Tony, we got a lot of highs back and forth. I get them up on the screen. I'll try to, even if I don't mention everybody. I'm really just kind of looking to see if there's any new faces that have popped in since I've been going, and it doesn't look like. Oh, yep, there's one coming up. We got a couple right here. Holland Oates is here always. Holland is the man. What's going on, Holland? He's saying hey to Johnny, so I might have missed his earlier comment. Yep, there it is. He says, hey, Tony. Dimension is here. What's going on, Dimension Scott? I got to get Dimension. I got to get you up here just because we have such opposite tastes, at least for me, judging from watching your videos. so we gotta get it together and see what's going on. All right, Huck's 4K DRay in the house. So you brought the crowd out. Culture Trini is here. All right, and we will well, movie Hunter 2020 is here. What's going on, Movie Hunter?
Movie Hunter, what is up?
What's going on, guys? All right, so we got more saying hi back and forth, and we're going to go ahead and get ready to get into the movies now. And Huck's just saying booking people is always the hardest part.
Yes, it is.
Yeah,
very tough.
Always tough. You got to deal with schedules and just who wants to do it and who don't. All right, so let's go ahead and get into the movies without any further delay. I'm gonna let you introduce the movie that you suggested for me to watch.
Okay. So I, gave you the list. It was tough giving you the list. I was like, now I know he's a little bit older than I am, so he's probably seen everything that I've seen a little bit more. I know he loves the same thing I like, martial arts. So I didn't really want to include those. I was like, he's probably gonna include them for me though. But gave you what I thought was a great list. Tried to
Mhm.
mix it up a little bit, the genres, but you chose 1986 Western comedy Three Amigos. Absolutely love that movie. It's pretty funny to me. I know reviews on it back then were not very good, but people have grown to love it a little bit more over the years. So I think it's a very good movie for most people. Hopefully you enjoyed it. We'll find out in a second. But the movie follows three stunt artists who make movies and things like that. They end up ultimately getting let go by the production company that they were working with, and there was a small town called Santa Paco where they would get overtaken by a little wild group headed by El Wapo. Um, he would use them for monetary gains and things like that. He'll just come into the village at random times, just want his offerings and things like that. So there was a young lady in the village who seen them on TV and kind of thought they were the real deal. So she hired them to come over and help save them from El Wapo's group. She didn't know they were stunt artists, and they didn't know that they were going into a real life situation. Fast forward, they ultimately come across El Wapo and his gang, and they think they're making a movie, and they find out they're not. One of them ends up getting shot. They find out things are real, end up getting taken as hostages and things like that. And things start to occur from there. It's a very funny film. It stars Steve Martin, Martin Short, Chevy Chase. There were other people that were casted for this role. Regardless, it was going to be a great cast. You guys can do the research if you want to find out who those other people were that were supposed to be casted for various reasons that didn't make it into the film. But we still got a great comedy, Western comedy at that. So if you guys haven't checked out Three Amigos, definitely check it out. There you go, Dale.
All right, so I'm gonna have to do some googling because I didn't know who. I didn't know there were other people really up for this role, especially when you got big names like Steve Martin, Chevy Chase in the movie. So I figured, that's who was supposed to always be in the movie. But I know how movies go; it doesn't always work out that way. Now, I'm glad you mentioned. Well, before I get into what I was going to say, I will say this one part you didn't kind of mention, just so people who haven't seen it know, is that these are not this is not modern actors. They're not supposed to be modern actors in the movie. They're supposed to be silent film era actors. So we're set in 1916, and that's kind of important to the story because of how things play out. And so now I'm glad you mentioned reviews. So yeah, I'm a little bit older than you, and I'm one of the people who, when I was a kid, before we go to the movies, I lived in an era when before we went to the movies, we would actually open up the newspaper and read reviews out of the newspaper. So, and reviews were not kind to this movie whatsoever. So, if me and my boys was going to the movies, it was like, we saw the commercial, and we like Chevy Chase, we like Steve Martin, but then every review we saw was 1 star, 2 stars, 1 star, 1.5. So it was like, we want to go see Three Amigos. Nah, what else is out there? Let's go see something else. So I never watched it because of that. I kind of avoided this movie the whole time. And then, as the years go by, it's like, you flip past something and Three Amigos is on, and it's like, do I want to watch Three Amigos? Nah, let me watch. I'll watch Terminator 2 again. So, something like that. So I got into the movie. So I said, you know what? It's finally time. When I saw your list, I said, it's finally time. Let's go ahead and see this movie. Let's watch it and see what the big deal is. If it's good, if it's bad, what's happening with it. And I'm gonna tell you right off the bat, one thing I did not know I was getting into, you didn't warn me, was a semi musical.
Yes.
They do a lot of singing and dancing in this movie. I was not prepared. So first, just if you can kind of go back to the first time you saw it, what do you think when that first happened?
So because I'm not a big fan of musicals at all. Luckily, I was really young when I saw this movie. Like I said, it came out in 86. I probably saw it around 88, 89, more than likely. And I liked it, but I'm not a fan of musicals. So I did think that was a bit cringy, I guess you could say. I wasn't quite into it, but it does fit the tone of the movie. So I totally understand it. Like when I watch it again, I already know what to expect, and it fits the movie overall. So I don't mind it too much, but yeah, I'm not into the musicals.
Okay, okay. Because yeah, I like I said, they what's happening here? What are we doing right now? But getting more into the story, because that's really where the movie kind of goes, kind of lives or dies. Really, is with the story of it. And I got a lot of Magnificent Seven vibes off of it. At least the way it was set up, it was kind of like, what if the Magnificent Seven were idiots?
Yeah.
It's kind of how I felt about it. And then they do their thing from there. So we got the three guys. Do you have a favorite of the three characters?
I'll probably say Martin Short.
Okay, okay. He, I now just a full disclosure. I've never been a big Martin Short fan, so I'm like always inclined to not for him not to be my favorite. But for this particular movie, I think I'm with you. I think he was also my favorite of the three characters, and he did a lot of the work. The funniest parts in the movie for me were mostly his.
Yes.
I thought his was movies at times. I thought Chevy Chase and Steve Martin were trying too hard, and it's easy to say that looking back now, watching it now as opposed to watching it in 1986. So 1986, well, I was a lot younger, obviously, but it would have been okay. Well, that's Steve Martin doing Steve Martin things all the time, and it wouldn't come off as the way some of it did. It came off like he and Chevy Chase was trying really, really hard, but Martin Short was kind of like he was kind of on it, and I really appreciated that about him. And I'm gonna apologize. I don't know if you can hear it in the background, but the air conditioner kicked on, and it's like really hot where I am in my house right now. So, so we just kicked it in like that. All right. So as you mentioned, they go to this town, Santa Paco, and they meet Carmen. And Carmen, she's clueless on one end, and she doesn't realize that they're just actors. She wandered into a place playing a movie. She doesn't realize they're just actors. She thinks they're the real deal, and they, of course, they don't know they're getting into the real deal. They think they're just doing a little show. What'd you think about Carmen? How'd you feel about her?
Um, I did like her because she did come off like the damsel in distress.
Uh huh.
But she didn't, like you said, she didn't do her due diligence to find out who these guys are. She just saw something on TV and ran with it. So she did have that kind of lost sense of mentality and everything throughout the movie as well.
Hmm.
But for something like that, she should have done her due diligence to find out like who these guys really are. If you've seen them on TV, chances are they're not the real deal. And she didn't think it through. All she wanted to do was save the village.
Right. Right. And I think that's where the time frame comes into effect, being 1916.
Yes.
So she, that kind of gives her that excuse that, okay, back then people may not have understood that what they were watching was not real. Whereas if it had been set in the 80s when they filmed it, then she wouldn't have that. She would have known right off the bat. So, but yeah, she really was interested in saving the village, and they they kept trying to they kept kind of pushing her as a love interest too,
Yes.
which was a little weird for me in this movie. And I only say that because there also seemed to be a lot of like subtle gay jokes between the three of them.
Yep.
So and so I was like, okay, which way are we actually going with this? So I don't know if you picked up on that or not.
Yes.
Okay, okay. Now, did you pick up on that when you were younger, or is this something more recent?
I think I picked up on it. I wouldn't say the first time I ever watched it, but the multiple times throughout that I watched it, I was like, I did pick up on that.
Yeah, especially with Martin Short's character.
And that's one of the reasons I was a little bit worried about you watching it, because I like, I'll tell people check out a movie, but I try not to get into, oh, it's a really good movie because you may feel different. And then with
Yeah.
comedies, a lot of times the type of comedy that the movie may have presented, it may not, survive throughout the years to where it's still funny. So I wasn't sure with this title. I'm like, is he gonna think it's still funny? Even though, because I think it's still kind of funny, but for you watching it the first time so many years later, you may be like, nah, this is outdated.
Well, as far as being dated, I'm gonna say this: since it wasn't like a lot of other '80s comedies where it just over the top gay jokes and straight homophobia and straight misogyny a lot of times. So that part wasn't too dated because they weren't really over the top with that kind of stuff in the movie. Everything was kind of kind of a wink and a nod, like, hey, this possibly could be happening over there. So that part didn't bother me. That part really didn't bother me. So we also had El Guapo, and even Martin Short. He was probably my favorite character in the movie because I kind of gravitate towards the bad guy sometimes, and he was funny in that he didn't see the three amigos as a threat.
Yeah.
So he's like, these clowns. What are they doing? They can't. They just here making jokes, and I'm entertaining myself with them for right now. What kind of bad guy? Do you think he was a good bad guy or bad or not so good? Or how'd you feel about El Guapo?
He seemed like the type, he was kind of forced into being a bad guy. Like he took over for someone who was once a bad guy, but he was really not that guy. So he seemed like he had a little bit in him that was still kind of good, but he needed to just continue to play that role as the bad guy of the group.
Okay, that's interesting because I didn't pick up on that. I just took him at face value. So that's an interesting way to
but
look at.
Like you said, it could have been his little bit of comedy elements that he was toying with them that makes me feel like that.
Right. Okay. So yeah, it could be either one because that's one good thing about discussions like this. There's always more than one way to look at something.
Yep.
And so I really appreciate that because I didn't pick up on that, and that might be something to reevaluate. So yeah, I appreciate that. There were a couple of other cameos. Phil Hartman shows up. John Levy shows up. John Lovitz rather. John Lovitz shows up, and they had a bit role. With, I think John Lovitz was the movie producer. Is that right?
Yeah.
He was the studio head. So that was cool seeing him really young again because. Again, I grew up watching him on Saturday Night Live and all of them guys really, but John Lovitz was kind of more my era than Steve Martin and Chevy Chase. So it was cool. It was cool seeing those guys. Now, did you think that they were going to? Oh, well, I know you've seen it a lot of times, but if you can, kind of going back a little bit, did you think they were going to be kind of all in when they, when they found out what was going to happen? Did you think they were going to be all in, but did you think it was going to happen as quickly, or did it take a little longer than you thought?
I could see it being a little too quick because it was like once they found out what was really going on, like I said, once he got shot and everything, and they was taken hostage, and they figured out, okay, this is real. That they was all in it together at that point. I mean, I think as far as I can remember, I believe they did want to leave, but then they didn't. Yeah. So maybe it was trying to look back. Maybe it was a little fast that all of it came together like that. But to me, it still kind of worked.
All right. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna take a quick break and go into the chat for a bit, see if anybody's saying anything about the movie, see if there's any other new faces that have popped in. Walter, he has popped in. He says, "What's up?" He says, "Hi to me, hi to you," and to the chat. Thank you, Walter, for being here. He's another former guest. Bob saying, "What's up?" Back to Culture and some others. And Dimension saying, "What's up?" Emmett usually brings a question. So he usually brings a question. He says, "So you like my story on Instagram about Aaliyah Try Again?" I did like a story of his. I can't remember if that was it or not. But yes, like the story, no problem. Not the caliber of questions I'm ready for, Emmett. I thought you had more. I thought you had something better for me. I'm sure it's coming. And Bob saying, hey, Movie Hunter says, working, but trying to pay attention. Hey, hold down that job. Don't lose a job to watch Movie Swap. Good Lord. But definitely catch the replay, and I appreciate you even trying to watch now. All right, we got a lot more people saying, hey, back and forth to one another. Don't see, let me scroll down just to see if there are any other new faces that are here for right now. There is one, at least one further, a little further down, and that is Fish, the film collector, is here. He says, hello, Dell, hello, DRay, and hello, chat.
Fish.
Going on, Fish. Fish is pretty hilarious. He keeps it on the low. So so he kind of comes out of nowhere a little bit sometimes with you. And Emmett says, I want Dell on movies to go up against Netflix reviews. I think he's talking about the battles. I'm not 100% sure with that. All right, so let's go ahead and get back into the movie. All right, so now we got to talk about what's going to make it or break it for me, and that's the humor. So, how old were you first time you saw it? I know you kind of mentioned it.
I had to be at least 6, 7 years old.
6, 7 years old. Okay. That is because seeing it at my age, a lot of the jokes didn't quite land for me. It was like they would do something, it was like, okay. And then sometimes they'll get a little chuckle. There were a few laughs. I'm not going to say it was not funny at all. There was definitely a few laughs. But I think had I convinced my boys to go see it back in 86 when we was looking at those bad reviews, I would have liked it a lot better. So like I said, with Steve Martin and Chevy Chase, it was a lot of, it just felt like they were doing too much. And I don't know if you like Kevin Hart in movies, but a lot of times I get a lot of that same feeling with him in movies that he's trying too hard. And I mean, he's got some good movies, don't get me wrong, but sometimes it's like, okay, you're doing way too much for what needed.
I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah. So I got some of that same feeling with Steve Martin and Chevy Chase. And it's funny because I like them. I like them both. I mean, I like the vacation movies. I like, The Jerk, All of Me. I don't know if you've seen All of Me. A lot of people haven't. This is a Steve Martin movie. But I like those movies, and I like them on Saturday Night Live too. So it's not that I don't like them. It's just that in this particular case, they didn't. It didn't connect for me. So now pushing it back towards you though is, and now you say you think it's still pretty funny. Is it as funny as it once was, or is it a little more lulls in the laughter for you? Or
I would say it's a little more lulls in the laughter. Like I said earlier, comedies a lot of times they don't hold up throughout the years. Some do, some don't. I could take for instance, I don't know if you ever seen the movie Waiting.
Yes, I've seen that.
I really like that movie, but the last time I watched it, like those type of jokes, they're not funny anymore. They haven't outstood the test of time. So It's not as good as a movie now. And Three Amigos can be the same way. And then one thing you haven't touched on yet is, how does it look now? I feel like it probably looks more like, you can tell they're like green screen or set on a stage or something, because, even back then, the background just didn't look all that great. It looked like they were on stage doing a play or something sometimes. So I'm wondering what it would look like now. Especially, I would love for 4K to come out, but I am a little bit worried about how generic and fake that it might end up looking.
All right, I'm gonna address that. But first, I just want to acknowledge my man Nick is in the house, and I know he's got to head to bed. That truck of life. Says, but I'll check the replay. You don't want to be next to my Lexus at the light when my subwoofer's pumping. Is that ghetto life? Look, Nick, I don't mind the subwoofer's pumping. I'm not talking about that kind of noise. I'm talking about that roaring engine, and then the car kind of puts off the line. That's what I'm talking about. The subwoofers, I'm all about that life. But as far as the look of the movie, I'm gonna say this: I don't think they did that bad a job. I think it looked pretty decent actually. And I didn't watch it on DVD or Blu-ray. I watched it on HBO Max,
HBO.
I think it was. Yeah, so I saw that. Now I will tell you one thing I noticed that they used a lot of in the background. So you could tell it was a studio. You could, but they used matte paintings,
Yes.
so it looked like, it really did look like the old school westerns with those paintings in the background. And for me, I thought that was kind of charming, so I didn't mind that so much. I don't know what a 4K would do to that, if it's going to be really cringeworthy looking at that now. And I mean, you're a more technical guy with than I am on that. So what, any thoughts on how that might play out on a 4K?
I'm worried because there's a scene in Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunters
Yeah.
that, to me, I can really tell it's green screen and set on a stage. I can see it very well, and it just took me out the movie for that few moments. So I'm thinking about that movie, and I'm like, I don't know, because some of the backdrops just didn't look good to me back then. So it's like, am I going to really notice it now?
Okay. Okay. And there weren't a whole lot of like, there was some stunts obviously in the movie, but there wasn't like a ton of things where they had, wire work and things like that.
Yeah.
So it would be interesting to see on a 4K, because with those paintings, and see how they hold up on a 4K. And I don't have any westerns on 4K, so I don't know if you do or not. I don't have any,
No.
so I don't know how they transfer, how they look.
But
But
I would say maybe, I know I see a lot of, I know you're in the martial arts, you got some behind you,
mhm.
some of those 88 films that have come out recently and things like that, depending on how they look now that they come up on Blu-ray and got a better restoration. If those look still pretty decent, I would expect that maybe it would translate a little bit better than what I'm thinking in my head onto 4K.
Okay, okay. And like I was saying, I think it not being like a special effects heavy movie, it's it will help. It'll help it. 'Cause even something like Batman '89 was largely, in a studio
Yes.
soundstage kind of deal. And even, yeah, and when I first went to see it, you couldn't really tell, but as I watched over the years, like, oh yeah, that I can feel it. It feels it feels like a stage, but it doesn't look too bad on 4K. It actually looks pretty decent. So I hope that that's the case if this movie does get a four. I should say when, because I know it's coming. Because they're throwing everything on 4K nowadays.
Yes.
It's getting crazy out there. And you mentioned martial arts, and I don't know if you picked up. Did you pick up the Bruce Lee Criterion set when it
Nope. And
came
I'm
out?
glad I haven't.
Okay, and the reason I asked that because Arrow's got a 4K Bruce Lee set coming out, but Enter the Dragon is not going to be 4K. That's going to be Blu-ray. But Warner
Yeah.
Brothers is putting it out 4K. Anyway, it's all confusing. But anyway, actually, let's back to this particular movie. That was really my one biggest gripe with it, and it didn't make it a terrible movie for me, because like I said, the story was kind of interesting, and I got into it in kind of that Magnificent Seven kind of way. Here comes some strangers to save the town, and I thought that was all pretty cool, pretty cute. 'Cause it wasn't really trying to be heavy hitting or anything like that. It wasn't really a ton of action scenes. It was kind of like Pink Panther or Inspector Gadget kind of stuff. You save the day by accident almost.
Right.
Now, the one thing I did think was too quick, and we talked about them turning it around, was the prepping the town. When they got to start
Yes.
prepping the town. That seemed like that was like, all right, you go stand over here, you go stand over here, and we're done. It was it was like I thought that was a little too fast. I don't know if you had any thoughts on that one.
Yeah, I would agree. For some people that they town have been getting ravaged by this group for the longest, they would be scared. But it seemed like with these guys came along, it kind of encouraged them a little bit more, and there was just no hesitancy to go ahead with this plan. They just jumped out like, okay.
Yeah, they just jumped out, just was just all in, like, all right, we got it, let's do it. And yeah, I mean, it works. And I don't generally like spoiling movies, because even a movie this old, somebody hasn't seen it.
Yes.
But for a comedy, I mean, there's really no other way this was gonna go.
Right.
So I'm not too worried about spoiling it. Let's jump back in the chat for a minute and see if anybody has got any thoughts out there. And what's Johnny watching saying? Everybody needs to Hulk smash that like button. I would appreciate that. We're up to about 22 folks in here. So I'm hoping by the time I get off the stream tonight, we got at least that many likes. I would appreciate it. We got Jerry saying what's up to Nick. Got people saying what's up to Culture. And again, a lot of back and forth. I haven't really seen too much talk about the movie. I don't know if anybody's seen Three Amigos. Let me know what you think about it, because that's part of this deal is hearing what you guys think of these movies too. And this was a pretty popular one, so I imagine that some of you have seen it. Mega Mike, the movie man, is here. He says, "Good evening, everyone. You're both awesome. Hope you're all having a great day." I appreciate it, Mike. And here's a question for you coming up from Walter Jonesing. Says, "What is your favorite genre of film?"
Oh, I'd probably go action.
Yeah, I knew that one. I knew that one. You got a favorite action movie?
I might. The one that always comes to my head, that I've also seen plenty of times, like it's like the ultimate movie. It never gets old. Predator.
Interesting. I just watched Predator recently before I watched Prey, and yeah, it still holds up. Still good stuff. You know, some of the effects are a little bit off.
Yes,
but it's still a good movie. Did you like Prey?
I did. I thought it was going to be pretty bad. I was like, nah, this isn't going to be very good. It came off pretty good. Do I want to continue? I know a lot of people want to continue to see them go to different times throughout, life, but I don't know how deep I want them to go into that.
Right. Because after a while, it's going to get either really repetitive or really dumb, and it's already kind of sort of dumb a little bit.
Yeah.
All right, Dimension says that would be fun. We're talking about my invite. It's gonna come one of these days. It's coming, Dimension. Grew up on Three Amigos, and was Johnny watching? Johnny says Lucky Day, Ned Needleland, and Dusty Bottoms. Those are the names of the characters, and those did give me a chuckle. Those were pretty good, especially Dusty Bottoms. I appreciated that. Mizzy E is here. What's going on, Mizzy? I don't know if you saw the Steelbook crew. They were out and about with Mizzy and Sue, and
it's cool seeing these groups getting together. We got Rad Pack getting together, Mizzy and Duran and Sue. They're always together.
Yeah,
so it's good to see everybody getting together, hanging out. Really get to know one another. Like we talked about earlier with the cars, just getting to know people. Finding out what else they like. You never know. You might like something that somebody else like. Now you created a different connection with them other than just movies. Exactly. So it's always good to have those conversations. And when you can meet up, you feel comfortable meeting somebody, go for it.
Yeah. Bob's never seen Three Amigos. And we just got some highs to back and forth. Vinicio the Horror Cholo is here. That he's quickly becoming my guy. Vinicio is off the chain. I love watching his channel. He says, "What's up, people? Thank you for showing up here, Vinicio, tonight." And I got to check out that last episode of Vin and Vin. I haven't had a chance to watch it yet. And Tony saying he had the newspaper too. That is all we had to go on.
Yep.
Yeah, we had to read reviews out the newspaper.
You had to look for the movie times on the newspaper.
Look up the movie times, or if you called them, you just got that automated.
You got to sit through all of it.
You got to sit through all of it trying to hit a movie, and man, if you miss it, that's the one time when mom calls you and you turn and they say the one you're looking for. All right, so we're gonna get ready to wrap this one up and put Three Amigos to bed. And I am just going to give my overall thoughts on it because, again, it was recommended to me. So I'm going to go ahead and give my overall thoughts on it. And I'm going to say this. I'm going to repeat a lot of what I said. If I had seen this movie back in 86, I might have ate it up because at that time I was 16 years old. So I might have ate it up if I seen it back then, but watching it now, a lot of the jokes, like I said, just kind of fall flat. And it's not that it's not that it was the jokes were totally dated or anything. It's just I didn't find them to be just to be funny, really. There were some other aspects that were kind of troubling that I wouldn't have definitely thought about back in the 80s, and that has to do with the whole white savior trope. I don't know if you're familiar with that
Yeah.
whole trope. And that was kind of problematic because of the way that Carmen and the people of the village were kind of portrayed. But again, that was in the 80s, so I can chalk that up and let that, let that ride. But the humor was just kind of like, a few good things,
Right.
few good jokes, and kind of a lull. And at the end, it was fine. It was okay. I didn't hate it. But it's probably not one I'm gonna be looking telling anybody, hey, you gotta check out Three Amigos. Not anybody older. So maybe if I had my kids are older now too, but if they were younger, I might have put this on. Hey, you guys, let's watch Three Amigos, because then they would have been in that ballpark to kind of get a lot of the humor with the movie. So again, not something I hated, but it's just wasn't my cup of tea as far as the jokes goes. And if I had seen it back then, and I probably would have seen it a lot more, then I would have been laughing right along with it. So I hope I didn't hurt your feelings on that one.
Not at all. That's what comes with recommending movies. Not everybody's gonna like the same stuff.
Yeah. I mean, it is definitely part of the deal. If you're gonna be out here recommending a movie, sometimes it's not gonna work. That's just the way it goes. Um, so I'm gonna go back through the chat just for a minute and just to see if anybody else showed up, and then we're gonna switch over to the other movie, or if anybody had any more comments on Three Amigos. And we got again a lot of people just going back and forth with each other. And again, I appreciate it. And like I always say, sub to each other out there in the chat. There's a lot of content creators out there, a lot of good ones out there. I have, a good time watching a lot of you guys. And I would appreciate it if you definitely take a look at my guy DRay over here. Check out his channel. Go support him. Tony just watched your Evil Dead Rise video. Man, really cool stuff. I need to watch that. I'm gonna guys reviews until I go see the movie. So if I'm not watching them, guys, just I'm letting you know that up front until I go see the movie. Now you're not a horror guy. That's if I remember right.
Yeah, not beyond. I would say probably around about 2005, 2010. I kind of veered all the way from it because I'm not into like the possession, jump scare type of stuff. I always like slashers a bit more, the 80s, 70s, stuff like that. But all this other stuff, like I went back and watched some of it, and some of it is really good, but that's just around the time period that I kind of started veering away from the horror.
Okay, so if you like slashes, did you bother with Scream 6?
Yes.
What'd you think of it?
I'd say I enjoyed it better than 5. I didn't like 5 at all. I did
Okay.
not like that movie. I don't understand how people liked it, but we all like different stuff. But I thought it was a little bit better. There was a few scenes that they kind of ruined a bit. I thought the train scene was the best scene in the entire movie. They could have did a little bit better with the opening. The opening is kind of what makes the Scream movies, that first kill, that first phone call. So I think
Yeah.
they kind of dropped the ball on that one this time.
Really? I liked it because I wasn't ready for them to do what they did. So I like that. And everybody loves the subway scene. I thought that was a great scene, but my favorite one was the bodega scene. So
See, that's the scene I was talking about. They kind of the setup for that scene was off to me.
was
That
off.
scene was
Okay.
going to end up being so good, but the moment before that happened, before they went into the actual bodega, was like really weird.
Okay. I'm gonna have to see it again because it's I just saw it the one time in theaters. So whenever I get it, whenever it comes out on physical, I'm gonna grab it and I'll definitely give it a watch. All right. Now Fish is saying "Sweet Little Buttercup." Was that from the movie? I can't.
Yeah, that was a
That
song
was
they
from the movie.
sung. Yeah.
Oh, that was the song. That was the song? Yeah. those moments kind of took me out. Vinicius has been taking the call of me Del Monte lately. I appreciate it. All right, and won't you stay a while, fish? Oh, so now people are getting into the song here. Mama Blu-ray is here. What's going on, Mama Blu-ray? She has been a big supporter since day one.
Always for everybody.
Always for everybody. I really appreciate it. And everybody talking to her, saying Mama Blu-ray is here. As we always perk up when she shows up to a stream. And she's gonna have more reason to show up here. I'll talk about it at the end. And yeah, I'll talk about that more at the end. And Trini says, "Come on, you were definitely singing My Little Buttercup." Probably talking to me.
I'm surprised you didn't too much care for that part because I know you got those Grease Blu-rays
Yeah,
back
yeah.
there. I kind of like that.
It's I love Grease, and though it might go back to I saw Grease when I was a kid.
Yeah.
I saw Grease way back when I was a kid, and it's crazy because my not my mom, not my house, but my grandmother, where she lived, and they were like in the even more in the hood than we were, and they had the Grease soundtrack. So you imagine you just being in the hood and this is in the 80s, and all of a sudden the Grease soundtrack
is on
blaring. So everybody's like, what in the world is going on? All right, Johnny says I'm good. I appreciate it. And Trinity's still going back. And Sue is here. What's going on, Sue? She says, hey, everyone. All right. All right. So let's go ahead and switch on over to the other movie. The movie I recommended for you to watch is from 2000. Guy Ritchie directed this movie. It is a crime comedy, so we're going to talk about more comedy, and that is Snatch. And we got a lot of people in this cast here. Jason Statham, or Statham, I can never remember how you actually say it. He is really our main character in the movie, and he's a boxing promoter, and he's got to deal with a lot of gangsters. And his main running partner is a guy named Tommy, and then he's got this big guy that runs with him all the time. And the big guy is their fighter, and he is getting into bed, so to speak. They're getting into bed with one of the local gangsters named Bricktop, and they want Statham's guy to throw a fight, want him to get knocked down in the 4th round. Well, there's a lot of other things happening in the movie. There's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot of other things happening in the movie. There's some other people trying to get in on the betting. There's some other people trying to rob. And through all of this, what happens is Tommy, not Statham's character, but the other guy, he goes down to the area where the Pikeys live, and he takes the big guy with him, and they get into some hot water, and the guy winds up dead. He winds up dead because he tried to fight Brad Pitt's character, and Brad Pitt took care of him really quick. And then they recruit Brad Pitt's character to be their new fighter. But of course, now that means he has to lose this next fight by going down in the 4th round, by being knocked out in the 4th round. And that is not something he's willing to do. And once he does not do that, it just all hell breaks loose from there. All right. So did you know it was a comedy going in?
I did not.
Okay.
Again, like I'd never seen the movie. I remember when the 4K came out, I was like, okay, is this something I need to pick up? I wasn't too sure. Never picked it up. Didn't know much about the movie at all. So that's why when it was on your list, I was like, okay, you know what? I'll do Snatch. That's something I definitely have not seen. Let me check it out, because when the 4K came out, I heard a lot of people talking about it, saying they was going to grab it. Such a great movie. I hadn't seen a lot of Guy Ritchie's work, especially not. I know this is kind of his forte, a movie that he likes doing. Mm-hmm. I've seen his other stuff like King Arthur. I love Wrath of Man. That was one of my favorite movies of 2021. And The Man from UNCLE, Man for Uncle, whatever you want to call it. Mm-hmm. Seen those. Those are a little bit different direction of what he typically puts out. Other than like this, I believe The Gentleman is like this. Lock, Stock, Smoking Barrels is like this.
Definitely.
So this was a little bit different. When I see mob crime, I'm thinking Casino, Scarface, that's type of thing I want to see. I want to see the killings, the drugs, all that good stuff. So this was a little bit weird when I seen the comedy. I was like, okay, but let me give it a try. Keep an
Right.
open mind.
Right. And that's all you can do. And I kind of purposely didn't tell you that it was a comedy. I just wanted to see what would happen. And Sue loves the Three Amigos, classic comedy. So it's you mentioned Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. Those two movies are two of his earliest movies, and they do have a lot in common. There's a lot happening in that movie, and he's kind of like a British version of Tarantino in those movies anyway.
Yes.
In his later movies, you mentioned some I still need to see Wrath of Man and The Gentleman, actually. He also did Aladdin. He did Disney, the live action Aladdin, and which is like really far out there compared to everything else he's done. He did the Sherlock Holmes movies and with the Robert Downey Jr. ones. And those, I think they're not the same as this, but you can see kind of the same elements kind of creeping into those movies that are in this one. All right. So when we meet Jason Statham and he's kind of filling us in on what's going on, and what do you think we're in for at that moment? What did you think we were in for?
I thought at the beginning the tone was a little bit different. They hadn't really stepped too much into the comedy yet, so I was like, okay, maybe this is going to be a little more crime thriller than with some added comedy. It was going to be quite a bit, and then to me it came out as almost a 50-50 mix of it. So I thought it was going to be a little less on the comedy side just from the beginning, but as we move along, it just wasn't that way for me.
Okay. Do you like movies where they kind of bounce around with so many characters? Because they did a lot of bouncing around in this movie and had a lot of characters.
That's one of the things I didn't like about it. And I enjoyed certain characters way more than others. And it was so much going on. And like you said, it was just jumping from one to the other. And I had a little bit of a hard time following along and keeping up with who's who and catching on, keeping the names in my head. Okay, that's Nikki or whatever,
Right.
So it was a little rough.
Yeah. It got to be. It could be a bit much. You said there was some that you like way more than others. Who were some of those that you really liked?
I thought the African American group, the British
African.
Yeah. They had to me guys. They had the best scenes. They were the funniest. They reminded me a lot of Harlem Nights.
Yeah. I can see that. Yeah, I can see that.
I enjoyed most of their scenes the best. There were some other scenes real throughout, from the comedy standpoint. To me, and I know you mentioned this earlier with Three Amigos and the kind of misogynist stuff and the like little gay jokes. And I know it's probably a British thing, and this is a 2000 movie, but there was a lot of scrotum sack jokes and stuff like that, and cutting the scrotum. It was just always that part of the body that they're always talking about, and I was like, okay, it's a bit much.
Yeah, there was a lot of that. Characters, or at least one of the characters that you didn't like.
What's his name? Tommy? Was that
Tommy? That was his sidekick. Yeah,
his sidekick. Yeah, I didn't too much care for his character. He felt like kind of a pushover. Like he really didn't belong. Like he was just kind of there because he was probably friends or making good money from what he was doing or something. But he felt a little too soft, like a little bit of a pushover to me.
Yeah, he was definitely that. He was definitely that. Now the big takeaway for a lot of people in this movie is Brad Pitt and what he did in the movie. Now I really enjoyed what he did in the movie. I don't know, how did you feel about his performance?
I enjoy. He was probably one of the best overall characters. His scenes was probably ultimately the best, but I felt like it was few and far between of seeing him on the screen. A lot of other people had a little bit longer scenes. He wasn't there enough. I liked when his first fight where he knocked the guy out. He was supposed to get knocked out in the fourth round, but he knocked him out really quick. That was hilarious. Thought that was probably one of the funniest scenes of the whole movie. I enjoyed that part. His other fight was pretty good, but the quick transitions they had in that fight was very dizzy and nauseating. But I
Yeah,
did enjoy the shots.
yeah, I will agree with that. Sometimes some of the camera work was a bit much.
Yeah,
I
and
mean,
I know Guy Ritchie. He likes this. I know he likes the slow motion, and I've seen quite a bit of that in the movie as well. He loves those slow motion shots and stuff like that.
yeah. Now I would say the one shot I really did enjoy was when they spun the revolver. This was happening kind of early on. They spun the revolver and then the whole camera looked like it kind of
Yeah,
spun off into the next scene. That was a cool transition, I thought. But a lot of times, yeah, they did a lot. It could get disorienting. It was a lot happening with those. Now you mentioned it was kind of hard to follow the story at times, and that's no knock on you because I've heard that a lot because there is so much happening. So when that happens, did the movie lose you?
I would say it did lose me towards the end. I would say after the scene where they went to the Russian guy's house.
Uh huh.
I would say after that, towards that, I think there was probably only about 15, 20 minutes left of the movie or something like that. But it did lose me a bit after that, almost completely.
Okay. Okay. That's fair. Um, he was a interesting character. I thought they kind of shoehorned him in a little bit, but because there was so much else going on, like you said, and then we had the guy flying in from New York, and we we had and
Yeah.
flying back and forth from New York to London, and then of course we had the bricktop guy, and now going back, this is again Brad Pitt's people, the Pikeys. Did I don't know if you watched it with subtitles or without subtitles. Were you able to at least to understand what they were saying at all?
I did it without the subtitles.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was it and it has been a while since I watched it. So when I watched it again, it was I had to be really tuned in when they were talking to make sure I caught
Yeah.
what what they were saying.
Yeah. And I
Um
thought his accent was pretty good. I thought he did pretty good with that.
yeah, I thought he did too, but we're not British, so I don't know
Yeah.
if that's
So somebody might think totally different. Like, no, he didn't.
yeah, no, he didn't. Yeah, exactly. Bob says what's funny to some people isn't funny to others. That's okay.
Yep.
It's okay. Turner fan 77 is here. What's going on, Rich?
Ton of fan.
And just wanted to stop and say what's up. Again, Rich and David from the 4K Lowdown, they do a lot of stuff together on David's channel on the 4K Lowdown.
Yes.
They do a lot of reviews and they have a good time with it. So I enjoy going over there and listening to those guys. They get real analytical with those. So
Yeah.
you got to kind of you have to be up for that. And I understand that maybe that's not everybody's cup of tea where you break down pieces of the movie into little bitty parts and score every part, but I enjoy it. And for people who are into things like that, I think that's a great place to hang out. All right. And we're saying good to see you from Dilated Entertainment. All right. So the movie is like I said, is kind of bouncing around all over the place. Were there I know you said you liked the black characters, thought they were the funniest. Were there any what were your favorite or the funniest moments to you? Let me put it that way.
Like I said, when he knocked the guy out in the boxing ring, that was probably the funniest.
Hmm.
Then the scene where they tried to rob the gambling place and they thought they were stuck inside, and
Yes.
the
Yes.
driver comes and just opens the door, and they just look like, oh,
Oh,
let's get out of here.
we got
That was pretty funny. And then when the dog was in the car and he started biting on him, then he
oh
swallowed the whole ball. That was
yeah.
pretty funny.
Yeah, I see. This is where my immaturity comes in because every time he squeezed him and the dog squeaked, I cracked. I giggled every time. So I had a good time with that part of it. Um, Now, so we get the story, and like I said, Jason Statham is kind of the main character here. Would you feel any attachment to him at all, or was he just one of the guys in the mix?
He was just one of the guys in the mix. Like I said, there was so many different people, so many different groups that you see throughout the movie, and it was just like I said, it was a little bit hard to follow. Maybe I need to really sit down and watch it again. And now that I kind of know what to expect. It was a bit much all at once to me.
Uh-huh.
But it's probably something I enjoy on the second watch. But I think like you said about Three Amigos, if this was something I watched back then in 2000, 2001, I think I would have definitely enjoyed it a little bit more.
Okay. Johnny says, little known fact, the late great Sam Kinison has some scenes in the film, but were left on the cutting room floor. Wish we could have seen them. I'm guessing he's talking about Three Amigos.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Because Sam Kinison, he passed a long. It's been a long time since he passed away. He was also had some funny moments. I don't know if you remember him in Back to School.
Yes.
That was one of my favorite scenes when I was a youngster seeing that movie. All right. So we got the movie goes on. We got the heist, with the three black characters, and we got the fights going on, and we got the when we got the whole thing with the Pikeys and everybody else. Did it ever get gritty enough for you ever at any point?
For a crime, like a mob type movie to be mixed in, no, not at all. Even when they had them all on the floor in the coroner's bag, it didn't feel too right. It was still too comedic to really get invested into that scene and think something was gonna really happen.
Okay.
Because even so when three black guys got to the other guy's house, to the bar where he was standing at, and he wasn't even paying them any attention. The whole thing with the replica gun versus the Desert Eagle 50 cap.
Yeah.
It was like, okay, y'all walked in, he's not even paying attention. You could have just shot him in the head, especially with this being like a crime movie. So it was like that didn't happen, and I'm like, okay, what are they even doing? Like, it was really weird. I'm expecting them to come in, kill this dude or whatever. It didn't happen like that. Like,
right.
Plenty
they had to bring a joke out of here. They had to bring another joke out of here.
Then the bartender hits the floor. He looks over the bar and everything. I was like, all
right. Understandable. Johnny says Steve Martin kills it in Bowfinger and Roxanne. Yeah, Bowfinger is an underrated movie, in my opinion. I don't know. Have you seen Bowfinger?
Yes.
Yeah. Did you like it or no?
It's okay. I would say, I think a lot of times we do hang our hats on nostalgia, especially from childhood, that we hold on to things. So I think I would always probably still put Roxanne over it because of that. It was something you grew up on. It was always on HBO, and there's just memorable moments from it that, to me, as far as Steve Martin, because I ain't going to say I'm a super huge good fan of Steve Martin, but I know Roxanne just always sticks out in my head as his movie.
Okay. James from 20th and 21st Movies is here, and he says hello to both of us and everyone in the chat.
James.
And yeah, he gave us some Criterion news yesterday. I was checking out his stream, and thanks for hanging out with us tonight. And Johnny saying what's up to James, saying hi to James, and Eddie's Films and Stuff is here. He's saying hello to us. What's going on, Eddie? All right, so we as far as the rest of the characters go, you already really said there's really nobody that you really kind of connected with at that point. It's just, we're bouncing around from A to B to C and just all the way around the circle. So did you feel the stakes at all, or was it just like, let's just let it, it's just something happening?
It felt like it was just something happening, because I can even go back to earlier in the movie. What is the guy's name? Was it Gorgeous George?
Yeah.
He was supposed to be that guy, but you really didn't get to see that he was that guy.
Right.
You seen him that one moment, and then it's over for him. So it's like, even after the scene, they're talking about him. He's like, he left us. And this, he's supposed to kind of feel that he's like the guy, the hitman, the guy that gets the job done, but you never seen him get the job done.
Yeah, they kind of for his character, they just relied on, here's this really big guy.
Yeah.
So I'll definitely agree with you there. Well, with the, you said it didn't get gritty enough for you, which was completely understandable with that. And So did you at that point? Well, for me, let me put it this way, and I'm sorry, I'm stumbling over my words here. So one of the things I mentioned about Guy Ritchie is that early on with movies like this and Lock Stock, he really felt like a Tarantino kind of director.
Yep.
Were you picking up on that as it was going on, or this is just something that you didn't really pick up on until maybe you heard it later or something like that?
Yeah, I did kind of get that sense from it with this movie. One thing I had already realized, which I like about Guy Ritchie and his movies, I think he really works hard on placement of music,
Uh huh.
melodies, beats, and things like that to set the mood for the scenes. And there's a lot of great music and different melodies and beats in this movie. So I think I almost enjoyed most of that more than the movie itself. There was a lot of great music going on throughout this movie. Same with Wrath of Man. I love the little beat that they have going on throughout that entire movie. It makes it feel like it's set in maybe like the 80s or something like that. So that's one thing I noticed with him and his production. But this one, it was a lot of great stuff going on in it.
Yeah, the I will agree with that with the score, the music. I did really enjoy that, and and he does place it very well. Um, so there are no arguments for me on that. Now we talked a little bit about you being a little more technological as far as your viewing goes. I don't know what you watched this on or how you watched it, but how did it look to you? Because I watched it and I was really curious because I watched it. I don't have the 4K or even the Blu-ray. I watched it on DVD, and even though it's on my 4K TV and it upscaled a little bit, it still looked kind of washed out, and it just didn't look particularly good. So I'm curious as what it looked like.
Yeah, a lot of the tones did kind of look washed out, but there was some moments and some pops of red in their clothes and stuff like that. There was a few moments where I was like, you know what, I would love to see this scene in 4K. It did make me want to go back and look at like Blu-ray.com and stuff and see what they talked about for as technical aspects with the movie, just in case it is something that I do want to pick up and give it that second chance on 4K if I can find it for like a little bit cheaper, which I think it has been pretty cheap lately, but there was some moments that I feel like really could benefit, especially if depending on whether it has Dolby Vision or HDR. I'm not sure, which one it has, but I feel like if it has Dolby Vision, there should be some pretty good scenes
Mhm.
throughout the movie that look really good.
Yeah, and I'm also curious if about the sound on those on that 4K too, because of the music, because music was really good in the movie. Um, so, are there any parts, anything that you wanted to mention that I didn't really touch on?
No, because that was my main thing. It just, and you touched on it pretty quick that it just felt like it was a lot going on. It was almost too many characters, jumping back and forth. One thing I did like that I didn't mention with the Russian scene, they showed the two different points of view of how he got out the car and got hit by the trailing car.
Yeah,
And it was like that, that was him. So they had to stop. And then all the women from the village or wherever came
right.
out and was just looking. So I did like the multiple aspects of that scene. So they did try to mix it up, giving you different vantage points throughout the movies. And like you said, with the revolver spinning and then the scene transitions with the spin. So there was some cool elements like that that really, try to keep you in the movie.
Yeah, it was definitely a lot of style, and some might say style over substance, or even style in place of substance. I'm kind of sensing that's kind of where you were kind of sitting.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. All right, no problem with that. Just let me see who's out here if they're talking about either the movies that
Oh,
we were
yeah.
talking about or others.
Jerk is
The
good.
Jerk is probably my favorite earlier Steve Martin films from Tony. Yeah, I'm a big fan of The Jerk, but I'm a little hesitant to go back and watch it because I haven't watched that one since I was a
Yeah,
kid
it's
either.
been, yep.
And I have it. I just haven't popped it in yet. Maybe
And
one
that's
of
funny
these.
because a lot of my list of what I gave you was from like childhood.
Yeah, yeah, it was. It was a lot of 80s and 90s stuff. Johnny agrees with Tony. Eddie saying what's up to Holland. Vinicio, they're saying what's up to Vinicio. And Westerns on 4K looks great, says Trini. All right. I'm gonna have to check one out. I know we got a few of them here in the last couple years. We got quite a few. I know we got The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance was a big one
Hmm.
that came out. Was it late last year, mid last year, sometime? one, but maybe I will. He's saying, "Hey," and Walter says, "To you, question for you: Do you have a favorite Steve Martin movie?"
Yeah, I'll probably go back to Roxanne. I mean, The Jerk was very good too, but like I said, I haven't seen that in a long time. And nostalgia, childhood, just I always remember Roxanne.
Yeah, yeah. All right, Venetia's saying, "What's up to Bob?" And again, I know it's after 9, so I know a lot of people may have gone over to Bob's stream. I appreciate the ones that are still here. We look like
Yeah,
we're
definitely.
covering right around double digits here. Uh, and yeah, if you do go over there, hit the like button on the way out. Check out 4K DRay's channel. Check out each other's channels. Check out my channel and sub to the people who you vibe with. That's really what it's all about here. All right, James is saying, hello. We got a lot of people again still hanging around, and we do have another new face here. We got Ben Buster is here. What's going on, Ben Buster?
Ben Buster, what is
He
up?
says, welcome to the stream, everyone. And people saying hey to him. And I'm gonna go ahead and come back to the movie here for a second. And well, we can go ahead and get ready to wrap this one up also. So I'm just going to let you give any overall thoughts, if there's anything that you wanted to add about the movie, and just kind of whether you liked it or didn't like it overall.
Okay, so yeah, I would say it was a decent first watch. I do believe, had I watched it early on at release or in theaters or something, I would have enjoyed it a little bit more. Probably would have been a little bit easier to digest with, so much going on throughout the movie and, just hard to keep up with who the characters are. Um, but overall, I thought it was a pretty decent movie. Um, would definitely give it a watch again, but it would have to be on the 4K for me to watch it again. That way I'd be pulled in a little bit more because I want to see those scenes that I was thinking about in my head as I was watching. Like, I would love to see what the 4K version of this looks like. But overall, I thought it was a good watch. I did not mind, picking this one at all. First time watches can be a good thing, and you're not always going to agree with, something being good or bad. So, you're just trying to add to your library of things that you watched and given a try. So
Yeah.
that was a good one from off your list. I did enjoy it. I would say out of 5, I would probably give it right now a 3, maybe 3.5.
Okay. Okay. That's about fair. And if we go just to go down that same star rating, I'd probably be a little bit lower on Three Amigos. I'd probably be about 2.5 or 3. Um, but yeah, so I appreciate that you are open enough that you might be willing to watch it again. There is a lot going on, and yeah, on a second viewing, you might pick up on a little bit more. It might be a little bit easier to follow, and it's just that way with a movie like this because
Yeah.
there's just so much happening in this movie.
Yeah, because I mean, like I said, I heard of it, and I know people was talking about it on its release with 4K, but I never heard too much about the actual movie. I know sometimes we get caught up in, this is the new release for Tuesday, and this is the packaging, but sometimes you just don't hear enough about what's happening, what the movie's about.
Right, right, and that's one of the reasons I do this series is because I mean it's great, and show off that I bought this or I bought that, or even for a lot of the channels I watch, I got the latest 4K or Blu-ray or whatever the case is, but I'm more interested in if it's a good movie or not.
Yeah.
And Jared Runner is here. He says, "Sorry, I'm late." No, you right on time. As soon as you got here, you were on time. If you want to see what we talked about earlier, catch the replay. And just to give you the heads up, we talked about Three Amigos first, and we kind of wrapping up now on Snatch from 2000, the Guy Ritchie movie. So if you've seen either one of those, let us know. And I know Jared's got kind of a rep for not seeing some movies.
But he's always willing to go back and watch them. That's what I like about him.
Yeah, he's always willing to go back, and Jerry giving him a big. He's a Jared Runner. He's got a lot going with that hello right there. All right, and kind of far behind on the chat here tonight. We got a lot of people talking to each other, and I appreciate that. If anybody's seen Snatch or the Three Amigos, let me know in the chat and go ahead and give us your thoughts on it because I would love to see those. And so our Ben Bestis has been here a while, just started to talk. Thank you, Ben. And he says he loves the Three Amigos. Very cool. Never seen Three Amigos. Holland's never seen it. And Ben says the chemistry is awesome. I appreciate it, Ben. Makes it easy though when you're talking to somebody you like. I mean, it's pretty easy, right?
Yep.
At least I like him. I don't know if he likes me.
Well, I just asked you out on a date earlier.
James got a question. He says, favorite action star. Ooh, you got one of those?
Come on, man. You see who's behind me? Sylvester Stallone. Rambo,
Okay.
Man. I love him.
See, I'm the arch rival. You know, I'm always a Schwarzenegger guy.
Kindergarten cop.
Yeah. Well, hey, it can't all be, you know, right.
Stop him. Oh, shoot.
Johnny says it's been well over 30 years since I've seen it. I liked it when I saw it in the 80s, but I need to rewatch it. Probably he's talking about the Three Amigos.
Yeah.
And funny enough, I only recently seen the Three Amigos. Walter says it was super fun and just a classic comedy. And Mega Mike, is there a boutique release of Three Amigos? I don't know. Do you know?
I don't think it's a boutique release. I do believe there is a Blu-ray for it, though.
It has made Blu-ray. So I wasn't sure if it had or not. Huck, I feel like they would still have the Predator lose no matter what era they go to. Yeah, they probably would. That would get old quick. They need to win viciously sometimes. That's an even grittier movie, boy, right there. If they let the Predator win. Tony said, no, sir. I guess we're talking about the boutique release of Three Amigos. I could imagine that would be getting one at some point because, you know, all the names involved in that movie.
Yeah.
Johnny says, yeah, I'd have a major star in the next one and have the Predator kill them at the end to throw everyone off. Okay.
Hit him with that swerve sometimes.
Yeah, you got to do that sometimes. Ben says, and there doesn't need to be one. I'm guessing he's talking about a boutique release of Three Amigos, maybe. Okay. Tiana's here. What's going on, Tiana? I know she's been showing up a lot lately.
Yeah, nice. What's up, Tiana?
Really appreciate Tiana. We're just saying hey to her. And I'm not sure what this says. What is that? Hey, Fefe Huck. I'm not sure.
El Jefe.
I'm not sure what that's all about. All right, Tiana saying hello to some people back. And just looking through, and we got a lot of people saying hey back and forth, and that's all cool. I'm kind of looking to see if anybody had anything to add about the movies, or if there were any questions for myself or for you. Tony says I must have muted the songs while watching. I like the songs. I didn't.
I just wasn't expecting all.
Oh that. No, he's talking about. You're talking about Three Amigos. Yeah. No, I didn't like those songs. I did. It was. I kind of rolled my eyes on a couple of those. I'll admit. I will admit to that. And Vinicio saying what's up to Mike. Huck, I love Grease. Grease is the word. Yeah. I'm right there with you. It was a funny thing being the one coming out of the hood apartment with Grease playing. All right, we do have some people talking about Snatch. Johnny likes it. It looks like. Holland says Snatch is a good one. Grease is a great one. Says Tony. Walter, haven't seen Snatch in forever. I guess that's what he meant. What a great comedy. Trinity says Snatch, yes sir. It's got a lot of fans of Snatch out there.
Yeah.
Yep. James says that's one he still needs to see. Tiana says Snatch is so good. Walter is really good. Everybody seems to like it. All right. Mama Blu-ray saying hey to Bob. She's saying we're shaking. So Bob, we're about 15. We're actually further than that behind on the chat.
Yeah.
So Bob, I'm sure is not here, but I will read this out. He says have to head out. We wanted to say great stream so far, Dell. I love the series you've created. Keep up the good work. You're doing great work as a host. Everyone around the community is enjoying. I appreciate that, Bob. Kind words are always welcome. Mama Blu-ray saying good night. And Johnny talks about what you were talking about with the accent. Said Pip pulls off the Irish accent. LOL. Dags. LOL. So yeah, I
Nice.
guess it was good accent. Wrath of Man is amazing. Says Huck, I gotta watch it. I still have to watch it. I don't know why I haven't watched it yet. It's one of those I keep putting it off. I say I'm gonna watch it, and then I watch something else. Fish, I've got to bounce out myself. Great picks. Have a great stream and a wonderful night. Latulo Moore is here. He says, what's
What is
up?
this up?
What's up to me? What's up to you? Since just started watching, so we're talking about Snatch. Are we? Yes, we were talking about Snatch. We talked about Three Amigos a little bit earlier, and you've probably figured that out now if you're still here. Tony saying hey to him, and got a lot. So for Snatch, is there a person, not a person, but a type of person that you would actually recommend the movie to?
I would say probably it would definitely have to probably be my age. I would say that has not seen it as well. I'd say go back and give it a watch. I love to hear somebody else's opinion that hasn't seen it before. It seems like everybody that has seen it probably seen it earlier on and they really love it. So I would like to hear somebody else's opinion, that's watching it for the first time. Also,
Okay.
that's around my same age range or a little bit older.
Okay. Okay. Sean Zarnecki is here. What's going on, Sean? Always glad to have you around. And Holland says, I think the pig scene is the only one that's really menacing from what I remember. We talked about when it got kind of gritty. And yeah, that was pretty disgusting, I thought. with the feeding them to the pigs kind of deal. Yeah. And they went there. I think they could have it could have gotten grittier if they had leaned on that character more. But they chose to go other routes with it. But he would be one that would have brought that out of the film. All right, so I'm gonna keep scrolling here for a little bit to see if there's anything to add. We're gonna go ahead and wrap it up, Mr. DRay. I'm gonna turn the floor over to you. You can go ahead and tell us anything that you have coming up or anything else you want us to know. It is all yours, sir.
All right, you guys. So thank you for joining us tonight. If you're watching this now or watching on the replay, definitely hit that like button for Dale, man. This is a very great series. I think sometimes, like I said, we get a little bit lost in this community on Tuesday. We're so focused on packaging and what each other brought that we kind of forget to talk about the movie itself. So this is a great opportunity to talk about movies, especially giving these people, whoever's on screen, the chance to watch something they haven't watched before that's recommended from, Dale. So I really enjoyed this. So one thing that I actually want to do, I don't know if anybody's done this for you, but I do want to do it because I like your list and it's got a couple other titles here that I hadn't seen before. So what I want to do is like a little, after the stream, and I'm going to make it my mission to watch another one of these movies and I'll send you in DM quick little synopsis of what I thought about the movie because it's always good to catch up on something that you hadn't seen before. You never know what you might like. So I'm gonna pick another one off your list and send that to you. But thanks you guys for being here once again. I'm 4K DRay. Solo to the channel if you haven't. Bringing out content whenever I can right now. Life is a little bit busy for me. So whenever I can get content out right now, I get content out. Like I said earlier, if you wasn't here, I totally 100% have not given up on the battles. Problem is, a lot of people do hit me up saying, hey, when's the battles coming back? I want fresh new faces all the time. It's been like that since day one. I've been telling y'all that nothing's changed. I want the fresh new faces. I think, I know a lot of times it doesn't get the views as having, some of the same people like Tony, Ken, Martinez, Joe. People love seeing those guys. But, I like to see different collections, different collectors get different thoughts and things like that and give everybody the opportunity to come on screen and show off what they got in their collection, man. I think it makes for a very fun time. So no matter what the views are, I know there's some people that still highly entertained by no matter who's on the screen. They just want to come out, have a good time on a Thursday night. So I would like to bring it back. I'm just waiting on people that, I have not had just yet. So look out. It will be back eventually. So if you're listening, if you're watching, you want to be part of it, you haven't, hit me up, man.
All right. I appreciate that you're gonna watch a couple more of these movies. I'm looking forward to see what you think of them. We got a couple people did chime in about the movies that we talked about. Tony says he needs to rewatch Snatch. Trini enjoys both movies, so he commended us on a nice swap. Tony says he needs to see the Three Amigos. It never appealed to him. Lutulo, I really enjoy Snatch. I also really enjoy Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. I'm a fan of that one too. But it's a lot like Snatch. It can be a lot on the first viewing if you're not real sure what is happening. El Jefe, because let me know. El Jefe is Spanish for the boss. Thank you. I call my Swap Meet Blu-ray guy El Jefe, so it's a reference to that. Cool. Thank you, Huck. I always love to learn something. Tony says he enjoyed the episode. Holland, another fun episode. At least I've seen one of the films. Which one did you see, Holland? I think he said. I think he mentioned. Did he mention Snatch? I think he mentioned Snatch. Tony says fresh faces is always a great thing. I like seeing new collections. Also, I look forward to seeing some battles, no matter who is battling. And I'm the same. I just have a fun time with it. And one of the things that's been kind of going around, I don't know if you've heard, is guys up there, it can turn into just a popularity contest.
Yeah,
for the chat. So
that's what anything that involves a voting system. So
right.
I knew that coming in, and it's going to happen. Everybody has their people that's going to come over and watch and vote for them no matter what. Spouses are going to watch and vote for them no matter what. It can't really be controlled. It's just having a good time.
Right. And I think though having newer faces, getting fresher faces on there kind of helps that too. Though not as many people know them. They're more inclined to actually vote what they really feel about whatever the pick is.
Yeah.
Lutulo says great episode. I appreciate it. For me here on Del on Movies, next week we got another movie swap coming up, and it's going to be Sue from Movies and Sue. She's going to come hang out and talk movies with me next week. So I'm really looking forward to that. We haven't had a lady on in quite some time, since Mika way back when. Mm-hmm. So I'm always up for that. And on Thursday night, I'm going to be on Mega Mike channel, and we're going to be talking about our favorite movies based on games. So, and not just video games, it could be any kind of games, board games, games you play as a kid. It could be any kind of game, he said. So It's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. Trini says, I'll always vote for the movie. And that's what the spirit of the battle is, but we know that doesn't always happen. And Tony
if Candyman ain't on them lists, then I don't know what to say.
All right, man. Thanks for hanging out with me, guys. We are gonna end it right here. Come back again next week and listen to me chop it up with Sue. Go sub to DRay. Come on over here and sub to me if you like what you have.